Talofa to you, sir. I hope you're doing alright from your side. My name is Lawoli Vipotara Tomasi. My student ID is S111-73180. In this video, I will be discussing about my lesson plan that I have prepared, which includes the lesson objectives, student activities, and the strategies used by the teacher to carry out the lesson. And the lesson that I have decided to teach about is number sense, which is with the subtopics of counting and place value. First of all, I will be discussing about counting. For counting, I will be carrying out activities as well for my students to do. And with counting, I will be looking on counting on and counting back, counting forward and counting backwards. I will be using sticks, pencils, markers, or anything that can be used to carry out my activity. And we will also be using number line. We'll be using number line to demonstrate for the students to understand more of the concept of counting and how important it is for them to know counting forward, counting backwards. Since there are plenty techniques and other ways of carrying out this activity or demonstrating to the students about counting, these are the things that I have decided to come up with using pencils, markers, sticks, and using number line, for sure that the students will be able to understand the concept of counting more better with the help of these resources and the help of the use of number line and other techniques that I've decided to add on, which can be used of pebbles, or use a jar with pebbles inside with the counting on, like counting how many pebbles are placed in and how much is being taken out. I will be using all of that in my lesson plan and in my teaching strategies. Moving on, for place value, I will be using a chart. I will be displaying a chart for my students so that they are able to see clearly with their own eyes how numbers are being placed and where the decimal point is, and most especially how they are able to label the names after and before the decimal points. For example, when we're using, especially when we're talking about money, like $2.50, this can really help the students know, understand more of the concept of place value, since they are able to know where 2 falls, what is the name for it, and where the 50 falls and what is the name for it as well. But before I get into place value, I will have to ensure and make sure that my students are able to know how to count properly. They are able to count forward, backwards, and not only that, not just by counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I will also be helping them to count in orderly manner or evenly, so that they are able to know that counting is not just in a sequence, but it can also be done in other different perspectives and other different ways of counting. And on top of all, with the help of counting and ensuring that the students are able to know how to count, and then we'll move on to discussing place value. And after all the discussion is done, and I will be asking questions in between to ensure that my students understood what I have taught about, then I'll be dividing them into groups. In this way, I'll be dividing them into 4 groups. 4 groups, as in 2 will be discussing about counting and the other 2 will be discussing about place value. For example, those who will be discussing about counting, one group can talk about counting on, counting backwards using the sticks, and the other group can talk about counting on, counting backwards with the help of the number line. And the other group, the place the other group who will be discussing about place value, they will be discussing about what numbers are named after the decimal point and what number is named before the decimal points. And on top of that, activities assess and now the activities and I'll be assessing their understanding, their knowledge while they're presenting their work. It's just a small presentation just so I am able to know where my students stand and what they have understood so far on counting and place value. And on top of that, when the group discussion is done, individual homeworks and maybe just 2 to 3 questions from counting and place value will be carried out during the class before the class ends, just so the students can know more and so that they are used to what we have discussed. And on top of that, homeworks will be provided and questions will also be asked during the class, during the discussion. I will also be pausing in between my discussion so I could ask the students if they have understood so far. And most of all, I will ensure that no student is left behind, and I will ensure that the objectives are met, and so that the students are able to know further of counting and place value. That is all I have for you today, sir. Have a blessed day. Thank you.